For all of you out there who dread going to the dentist office twice a year, the amount of fun in this episode will change the way you feel about your dentist forever. Well, if your dentist happens to be the one and only Dr. Jenna Schares, DDS, OY, Iowa. For part 2 of Jenna's episode, she reveals the crucial first step she and her husband took in prepping for the apocalypse. Being prepared isn't that complicated, folks. Would you believe that as a child, this future dental expert loved candy? Yeah, loved it so much that she would actually steal it from her siblings.
Mommy, Jenna took my chocolate.
Jenna, give back the chocolate right now, young lady. You're eating candy like we have a dentist in the family.
When it came time to have more serious discussions, Jenna asks, what is up with the daylight savings time? Do we really need it? Can't we just pick a time and stick with it once and for all? And how about her opinions on the secret lives of Mormon wives? That ought to make Bubba real uncomfortable. And if you were wondering, yes, she is on the right side of the whole over and under debate when it comes to toilet paper and paper towels. So, lean back in that chair, open wide. Here comes a big old serving of the best new, fastest growing podcast on the market. Here's your host, Seaman!
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. What is up? Welcome back for part 2 with probably the most interesting dentist you will ever meet, my dentist and United States Air Force veteran, Dr. Jenna Schares. If you missed part 1, go back and listen to it. We talked all kinds of good stuff. We had some laughs, but she also kind of made me feel like, wow, I could have done more, because she earned her degree in cell and molecular biology. She joined the Air Force, became a dentist, owns her own practice, on top of being a wife and a mom and an involved community member. So yeah, it was a great episode. You guys definitely, if you didn't hear that, go back and listen to that one. This week, we're going to get into her segments. You guys know how I do it. We always have the fun stuff in part 2. We're going to have some fun, but we're also going to get a little serious at the end. She's got a couple topics she's a little passionate about, so we're going to let her share that. But before we do, to my audience, if you haven't already, you guys know the drill. Subscribe, follow, like, wherever you listen or watch. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Leave us a 5-star rating. Even if you think we're less than that, just hit the 5-star and then leave. That's fine. It'll help me out. Follow our Instagram and our Facebook for more reels, pictures, giveaways. Yeah, you guys want to see more of those ice bath reels? Well, there probably won't be another one, but it's on there. Share with all your friends on your social media, and then show off your taste by sporting some of our merch. You want one of these What Is Up hoodies right here? Yes, I know. It's a thing of beauty. I didn't design it. My wife's stepbrother did. He's a graphic designer. It looks really good, though. If you want one, just hit me up. whatisuppodcast@gmail.com, and we'll hook you up for sure. Once you've done all that, sit back, relax, and enjoy the best new podcast on the market. Jenna, thanks for coming back for part 2. It's only been a few minutes, but to the audience, it's been a week. So, are you ready to do your segments?
Yes, I am.
Okay, here we go. Job rundown. This is a segment. It's very self-explanatory. Let's just go back as far as you can and try and get to present day. What all have you done?
I've done a lot of dentistry, but it didn't start that way. I started at 13 doing babysitting.
I knew it was going to be babysitting.
I love little kids, and I actually did the babysitter's CPR prep course, and I put out flyers in my neighborhood. And I
would hold that training?
I didn't hold the training. I attended the training.
Okay.
But then as a middle schooler, I basically put out flyers that I babysat and that I did this course that parents knew I would take it seriously.
That's right. Yeah.
And I found a few families, and one in particular that I ended up nannying for all the way through dental school. They moved to Kansas City at the time when I was also in Kansas City for dental school, and I still nannied for them some. So it ended up being a really growing, lasting relationship.
Yeah.
Over the course of the decade, and now those kids are graduating college and things, so it happens. I did in high school. I worked for my history teacher in the summers, helping do some exterior painting, kind of a random job.
You worked for a teacher?
A teacher. My history teacher would hire on additional help because he was a little bit of an older guy and wanted the help with repainting some of the buildings around town. He just had
Okay.
jobs, outside jobs that he would do. And so I helped with that, which for not being a rural farm girl type of person, that was good to get a little outside work experience that
Sure,
way.
Sure.
And then after that, when I graduated high school, I knew kids because of babysitting for years. So I went into retail and I worked at the Gymboree retail store that sells kids' clothes because I thought, well, maybe this will be a way that I don't buy all the merchandise myself because I don't have kids. So like maybe I'll make more money here than spend it.
Yeah.
And so that worked out pretty well. I did that for a couple of years, and then I started in my undergrad. I started working for my family dentist as an assistant with on-the-job training, and then took a certified written test so that I could be a dental assistant and accumulate my shadowing hours.
Sure.
So I worked it was just a couple afternoons a week during my undergrad, so probably 6 hours a week total that I threw in there. But
Yeah.
I did that over the course of 3 to 4 years.
Oh yeah.
And
that
so the
adds up.
hours add up, and that all went towards my dental application, and then it's been dentistry ever since. So
Okay. Wow. Cool. Yeah, that's what when you say I worked for a teacher over the summer, it's like usually when you see your teachers outside of school, it was always kind of awkward. I mean, it's a little different in a small town. Some people, the teachers still live in the town or whatever. But for me growing up, yeah, if you saw your teacher at like the grocery store or something, it's like weird. You don't know what to do. Do you say hi? Do you try and go down the next aisle? But here you were helping him paint buildings and make money. That's good. Okay. All right, next segment, prep for the apocalypse. It kind of surprised me when you chose this one because, you look at your dentist a certain way and you don't think, hey, she's got a plan. If things go south, you and Nate have a plan. So what do you do? Whether this is, just, the big military term is an EMP and it knocks out all technology, all electricity, and we're set back. Or, some people like to think, no, it's an invasion or it's, aliens. Or it's like, think of it however you want, but basically we're set back a few hundred years. Things went south. What are you and Nate and the kids? What are you doing? What's your plan?
our first preparatory step was to move to rural Iowa.
That's a good step
Yes,
one.
yes, and I think
It's the
even
best.
even COVID kind of helped prove that.
Sure.
When the world shuts down and you want to be a little more isolated, it's not so bad
Yeah.
to be in a smaller community. So that was step one, already done.
Okay.
And both of us, Nate and I, we do consider and try and be prepared in that way. So even when I was commuting, I commuted to him a lot during our long distance. So from Wichita to Kansas City, I was big on having a prep container in my car for if there was emergency or
Sure.
something. And that even included like maps for a big atlas for
Sure.
the whole country. Because
Yeah.
you think, if I don't have my phone, how do I know where I'm going? And him and I had even sat down and worked out points of where if there was an EMP type of event and we weren't able to communicate with each other, where would we meet?
Oh,
When you're living
wow.
3 hours from each other
Wow.
in different cities, so that one kind of struck a chord because like to a certain degree, it's not fully made up for us. Like, do I think there's going to be an alien invasion? Probably not. But in terms of being prepared for your world to not be the same that it has been, that's very reasonable. So in general, having a generator and storing
Yep.
water and being in a smaller community, having non-perishables down on the shelf,
Okay.
different things like that we actually already
Sure.
kind of do. So,
Yeah.
it's not like we sweat about it all the time, but in general, it's something we do try
Sure.
to be prepared.
You don't have the
for.
bunker somewhere.
No, I don't have. We
Okay.
don't have a bunker yet. But
Or the-
I mean,
or
my
the-
basement is kind of a black hole. But it's
They all
once you
collect
go
everything.
once you go down there, you might So
When we moved, we lived in our one house for like 15 years, and then we moved to this house. And you can see this house, the basement is finished, so there's hardly any storage. Our other house, it was half finished, the other half was all storage. So what do you do with all that stuff you accumulate over 15 years? Well, that's the big shed out there, the 20-foot long shed, and it's like, oh, it's a disaster. When you open in there, open the door, you're entering at your own risk. It's bad, but. Yeah, you don't have the crazy uncle that's got the land somewhere up here, like out by Strawberry. Maybe that's what Kevin's doing these days. I don't know.
it's hard to say. Yeah, it could. You never know what people have up their sleeves.
No.
So.
But yeah, that's good. My wife just got into this. I got a dehydrator for Christmas to make jerky, and here all she's done is dehydrate vegetables, fruit, and marshmallows.
Did she give it to you?
No, I think my mom gave
okay,
it to
I was
me.
like,
I
oh,
think my mom gave it to
it's
me, and
always-
she starts dehydrating stuff. But no, that is what you do. You give your spouse a gift that you will benefit from or use. But yeah, so yeah, we're starting to do that stuff. She's full on board.
Well, and in a rural community too, with like gardening being such a big thing, people do a lot of canning. Like, there's certain aspects of that where you're like, it makes sense. It's good to be prepared. You've got stuff on the shelves.
When people started fighting in the stores over toilet paper and such in 2020, it kind of reminded, hey, the people that are putting stuff on their shelves in their basement, they're not that weird.
And it's not that far off.
Just do it. Just do it and be prepared. I will never get the toilet paper thing because from everything I read, we make that right here. It's not like it's not the ship ain't coming in. We're not letting it. We make it here. Everyone just calm down. Nope. We got to stock up. So
we ended up with that toilet paper thing. My parents bought so much of it. They bought like the really terrible stuff, and then it came back into stock, and they don't want any of this terrible like 1-2 ply. So they brought it up to us. Like we would want it, and they disguised it as we thought you might want to use this in your camper, and we're like, nobody wants to use this. It's terrible.
Oh wow! I just had this thought pop into my head, like, where is that toilet paper now? Is it at the office? Is it in the
No, I supply the office with our nice stuff. I can't be sure. I think I tried to pass it off to my husband and figure out what to do with this.
You wait for the right Christmas party, and that's the great gag gift or something. But that would be so funny if it's in the public bathroom at the dentist office. But okay, we'll move on before I get her in trouble.
I just make my staff use it, not my
There
patients,
you go.
So.
It's in the employee bathroom.
It's in the employee bathroom.
Sorry, girls. Okay. Okay. No one has picked this next segment yet, and that's good because sometimes I like to do these segments by myself because they go months without picking them, and so I have to do a solo episode and show people, hey, this stuff's available. I have other content that people aren't choosing, and you chose this one. Snitch on yourself, and this is just what it sounds like. If there's something, it could be more or less serious. I'm not trying to get you put in jail, but is there something you want to come clean about? Like maybe most people don't know. It could be a childhood thing, could be an adult thing, doesn't matter. But you chose that one, so I'm dying to know what is it that you want to get off your conscience.
I have probably 2 different things I could snitch on myself. One is from childhood.
Okay.
And it kind of comes funny now that I'm a dentist. But I had one younger sister, and at the holidays, we would get our Easter candy or Halloween candy or Christmas candy. And she would meticulously like store it in her closet and eat a little bit and make it last until the next holiday.
Okay.
And I was like the candy eater. So after mine was gone, I would slowly go in and grab her candy and try to eat enough that she wouldn't really notice that I was stealing it over time.
Yeah.
And I found that ironic now that I'm a dentist. And I still like candy, and now I know how to steal it from my son. So it came in handy. So
it's not stealing when you're the parent.
Yeah.
That is, they may have went and got it, but you have to test it. You have first dib on all the mini candy bars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Did she ever find out?
Yeah, so she definitely knew.
Okay.
Yeah, it was kind of a long-standing thing. She figured it out pretty quick, so I wasn't that sneaky about it. But she knew she had to hide it better.
Yeah.
After, so it's just an ongoing childhood thing. I was like, I knew she had candy in there somewhere because she always had it and would make it last.
I never understood the people that could save that kind of stuff as kids. That is just foreign to me.
This year, my husband tried to tell me, we were like a month past Halloween. He's like, it's getting old. And I was like, the candy's better on the it's on the shelf longer than a month.
It's not going bad.
He's like, we got to get rid of it. We got to eat it, right? Because it's getting old. And I was like, well,
Nice try. Yeah. If you want to eat it, eat it.
And the other thing to snitch on myself is that my work in progress is I am not a very organized person. So coming out of the military and all of that is kind of a surprise, probably to most.
Yeah.
I lived on my own for many years, which is also a danger if you're a disorganized person because you don't really have anyone else there to hold you accountable.
Sure. Yeah.
So one of my embarrassing, funny snitch on myself story is not funny at the time, but when I lived in Wichita, I was in a rental off base in a not so great neighborhood because it was a great price point. Cute little rental, redone, but not a nice neighborhood. I left to visit Nate for a long weekend over Martin Luther King, and I came back and my house had been broken into, which was not a good feeling. When my neighbors came in to help me look through and kind of secure things, and they went into my bedroom and they're like, they took everything apart. And I was like, no, that's what it looked like. So that was a good lesson for me. I was like, must leave town with things a little picked up because that is humiliating.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, they destroyed my
They're like,
bedroom.
they took everything out of your drawers. And so I was like, oh, actually, that's how I left it.
Oh, that's good. And then
Work on that.
I wonder, did they think differently of you after that? Like, that's how you live for real? Wow.
You know, now that when I think back on it, I'm not sure I told them out loud. I think I
Right.
just rode that
Sure.
situation. You know,
just leave it where it is.
There wasn't
doesn't
any
need to be any
sense in-
clarification.
Yeah. So
Well, if they're listening now they know she was a slob, guys. That's just the way it was. The police come in and they're just like, wow, yeah, they did a number in here. No, they didn't come in this room. Sorry. That's good. See, that is exactly what I wanted for that segment. I'm glad you chose that one.
it's embarrassing to share, but you know, it's real.
Well, that's it. Real life. Real life with real people. I like it. Okay, this or that. You chose this or that, so I'm going to give you some of these. And I had some new ones that I think I did with my last guest, so I'll try and mix up some of the old ones and some of the new ones. Music or podcasts?
Music.
Okay. It's wintertime in Iowa. Barefoot, socks, or slippers?
Socks.
Swimming pool or beach?
Beach.
Fruits or vegetables?
Fruits.
Cats or dogs? I don't think we got into this in your first episode. You told me.
I have a dog
Yeah.
for 14 years, so I am a dog person. I have come around to cats more recently, but definitely long-standing dog person.
Okay. Well, that's too bad. I know. Dogs have worn my nerves and patience. Cats, you got to work for their affection. Dogs are they're just emotionally shallow, and they'll love you no matter what you do. I don't know. But that's good. Okay. Summer or winter?
Summer.
All right. Let's see. Rural or city? You obviously chose rural.
All the
Okay.
way.
Cook at home or go out to eat?
Cook at home.
Waffles or pancakes?
Pancakes.
Apples or oranges?
Apples.
Pizza or pasta?
Pizza.
Fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction.
Do you drink soda at all as a dentist?
What's your question besides that? I do.
Coke or Pepsi?
Okay.
Like that's a divide. There is a
Coke.
dividing line in the country.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
Because where I come from, Pepsi isn't even. It didn't
talk about it.
Yeah, it didn't even exist. Like, and everything was Coke. That's what some people. When I moved up here, and I heard people using the word pop, I was like, "What are you, 100 years old? Who uses the word pop?" And they're like, "Well, what do you call pop?" And I go, "What are we talking about?" And they're like, the pop, Mountain Dew and this and that. And I go, "It's Coke." And they go, "No, Coke is Coke." It's like, no, everything is Coke.
Everything is Coke.
You go to a restaurant and they ask you what you want. You say, Coke. And they go, "Okay, what kind?"
I was raised on Diet Pepsi. We were in the 90s, so
Okay.
it was diet culture.
But you
And
guys, so Missouri, that's kind of that.
part was
right on-
Iowa. Yeah, it was kind of borderline.
Yeah.
So we were pop up here, and then in Missouri it was soda,
Yep.
and very
The
confusing.
farther south
so,
you get, then it goes full-fledged Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but now I would say if I were picking between the two, it would be
Okay.
Coke.
Dark chocolate or milk chocolate?
Dark.
All right. Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay. Date night or double date? So like you and Nate together, or do you got to have another couple there to keep conversation moving?
No, I will pick regular date night because it doesn't happen enough. So it's very nice when it does.
Yeah, when you're in Toddlerville,
I
as you
know.
called it, doesn't happen that much. Okay, travel or stay at home?
Stay at home.
Okay, movie or book?
Movie.
Oh, I would have pegged you for book. Okay.
I fall asleep.
Yep. Here's the thing. Sarah I had the idea. I didn't have the idea. I saw this idea on the internet. It was leading up to Christmas, read a chapter of Luke every day in December. And by the time you get to Christmas Eve, you're done. So it helps you kind of focus on Jesus a little bit more and really understand. You get through the Christmas story right away, the first couple chapters. And so we started doing that, and then I noticed my wife was playing it on the Bible app as well. And I was like, well, that doesn't count. Listening isn't quite the same as reading. And then so I started, it's like, the more it's kind of like if you use more than one thing, like if you write something, you're reading it, and if you hear, it's just an added bonus.
Right.
So if you follow along, if you just have it playing, that's not as good as following along, reading and having it playing.
Oh.
So I'm starting to find it's a lot easier to stay focused on your reading if you're doing the audio at the same time.
That's interesting.
But not closed book, just audio.
Yeah.
Open the book and go. So if anyone struggles, it's helping me quite a bit for sure. Most guests can't answer this question, but I'm hoping you've had both Cracker Barrel or Waffle House.
Oh, Cracker Barrel.
Okay. Have you had both?
Yes.
Okay. I figured you would have, having traveled and stuff. I have people sit there and they go, I don't know, never had either. And I'm like, well, then you can't answer. Just say you can't answer it. Okay. Let's see. Gum or mints?
Gum.
Okay.
For a short time. As a dentist, we don't recommend long gum chewing.
Okay, there we go. I knew a PSA was coming. Okay, now this one crosses the most boundaries. It's the most controversial, but there's two kinds of people in this world, and this one will tell the audience which kind you are. When you place paper towels or toilet paper on the roll, is it over, hanging across the front, or is it like under and hanging?
Definitely over.
You're a genius.
Okay.
And you didn't.
I know you said that there's no right or wrong person, but that is clearly right or wrong.
Yes, it is. And I've inserted the patent in multiple videos to show people when they design. Obviously, why would you want to reach behind and pull from the... No, you want it hanging. Oh, when you go to a hotel, it's like folded in a nice triangle shape over the front. Come on, people.
And in Toddlerville, if it's hanging down below, it's that much faster for them to yank down.
The whole thing down.
Yeah, it just... It's
makes
fast.
a mess.
It's fast.
Okay. There we go. This or that. That was fun. Okay. I'm starting to get to know my dentist here today, folks. All right. Getting to know you segment. You chose some good ones here. Let's just jump right into them. 3 favorite movies.
For movies, I ended up picking some older ones. Nothing as of new that has struck me where I sinks into the memory. So I have always really enjoyed The Prestige, which, do we go into... detail about the movie?
Just a short synopsis.
So it's got Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman, and they're competing magicians.
Yes.
And it just has a lot of good themes to it about like how much you drive yourself and how you can be missing the bigger picture.
Sure.
And you could be giving up on a lot of great things in your life if you become obsessive about certain things.
Yeah.
And the change up at the end had surprised me initially and was intriguing, and so I liked that movie a lot. I can watch it over and over again.
Okay, next one.
Next was Interstellar. This one also leaves me where I feel like I could watch it over and over again and never fully understand the pieces of it.
Yeah.
And then the other, it's got Matthew McConaughey, and it's set as them trying to get to a new living space through a wormhole of, in the galaxy, basically. Yeah. That they're running out of clean air and environment on Earth. And the music is so amazing in that movie that it's really fascinating. And it's the type of movie where I feel like I can watch it over and over again and pull different pieces or think about it a different way. Yeah. And so I've enjoyed that one a lot as well. And then for a classic rom-com, I really liked The Proposal.
All right.
I wasn't well known about. I didn't know about Ryan Reynolds a whole lot ahead of that movie, which he'd had a lot of other things before then.
Pretty popular.
But I just thought he was hilarious, and the two of them together, and Betty White dancing in the woods and stuff. I just had, for a rom-com, I just had the most laughs with that than I'd had in a long time. Yeah. So I do enjoy that movie as well.
Yeah, that's good stuff. My family is like stuck on these Vince Vaughn comedies. Like we can't get off of them, like The Breakup or Couples Retreat or
a Couples
these
Retreat.
things.
So
they're just funny, hilarious, and that's good stuff. Interstellar, that one's, you could probably watch it 100 times.
That one just came onto Netflix, I think. They just brought it back on. I was like,
Matthew McConaughey though, had him on the podcast. You guys remember that? No, not that Matthew McConaughey, but I sure hyped it up that way. I had some people fooled. We just watched We Are Marshall last night. Man, he's just a great actor. I know he started off as kind of, the guy from Dazed and Confused or whatever, but man, he played that character so well. He talked like him because that guy talked out of the side of his mouth. It was very good. Very good. And I think on the last episode, I did his Uber Eats commercial. I actually played it because it's hilarious. Okay, moving on. First car.
I had a 2000 red Saturn coupe. It was a stick shift.
Wow.
And I got it handed down to me because I had a cousin who was about 6 years older that bought the car out of high school and then ended up not being able to afford it. So Dad bought it off of her hands and then sold it to his sister, which was my mom. So I ended up getting to start driving that at 15. So it was only a couple years old, really low mileage. Got to learn on a stick, and it was a 3-door. So you open up the driver's side, and it's got this little side bucket door that opens from the other direction. And I was thinking back on it when, thinking about this episode, and I don't know if I could get in and out of that bucket seat at this point.
Yeah.
Like you take for granted the high school mobility of like hopping in and out. And I was like, oh my gosh, to get in the passenger side bucket seat with it like way over there, I was like, I don't know how that would work, but I drove
in
that.
High school, you don't care.
I drove
Kids
that through my last year of dental school. So my last year of dental school, I got moved up to the next step. So it was a good first car. Lasted a long time.
Yeah, sounds like it. Lasted quite a while. All right. Favorite restaurant or fast food?
Oh, yes. So I was going back to a little bit ahead of us moving rural because, in other cities you have so many options. It gets hard to pick. But living in Kansas City, downtown area, Cheesecake Factory is always kind of a special, fun place to go. Huge portions and too many cheesecakes to choose from at the end. Usually too full anyway, but you make it happen. And then in Springfield, we had a Cheddar's, which was a nice chain restaurant. They have them in Coralville, I think, still.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
As well. And it was always a really good value for, like, good food, good, just different types of things on their menu. But ultimately a really great price and good portion size, too.
Is it
but
like fast food or is it more restaurant?
It's more restaurant. It's kind of like an Applebee's in a sense.
Okay. Well, that's
so, but
nice.
That was in Springfield. That always had the longest lines when you try to get in there. It was just always busy. So, but that's a sign of a good spot.
Yeah,
right?
that is a good sign. Yeah. All right. What about more on the fast food side?
Fast food side. I love Chick-fil-A or Jimmy John's. I've never really been a sub person.
Yeah.
Like it's not. I don't. But there's some. It must be the bread.
Okay.
But it's Jimmy John's is something that like after having kids, it was like that's the first meal. Like go get a sub sandwich, and have that. So. And Chick-fil-A is always great as well.
Chick-fil-A is awesome. I love their drive-up system. The outdoors, 2 lanes, like they figured that out. Yeah. So, yeah, that's good stuff. Okay, childhood cartoons. I can relate to you on some of these. Yeah. What do you got? You're going back a ways here.
Going back to Rugrats. A lot of Nickelodeon, and then Doug and Hey Arnold ring a bell. So just kind of quirky little shows, but a
Nickelodeon
lot of
was good at that.
Relationship based. I have pulled out Rugrats to try and see like is this something I would let my kids watch, and it's different pulling up something you watched when you were younger and seeing it as an adult and be like, is this? Should we not?
Yeah.
Maybe, so.
No, you're spot on right. Some of those cartoons, I was big into Rugrats, Doug, anything Nickelodeon did. I know they did the Saturday night Nickelodeon, and it had that Are You Afraid of the Dark show, and I wasn't into scary stuff, but I'd watch that every time, and yeah, Nickelodeon had good stuff. You really didn't, I don't remember having to worry about it, but some of the movies we watched as kids... Yeah, I'm with you. Like that one movie, I remember telling my kids, "Oh, you guys are gonna love this," because I don't like scary stuff, but one of my kids kind of does, and I was like, "Oh, well, this one was kid friendly." I remember kid friendly for sure. I watched it, and then you pull it up, and it's that Little Monsters with like Fred Savage and Howie Mandel, and it's like there's a cuss word left and right, and then it's like, man, I don't remember that being in there,
I know.
But. Yeah, sometimes it ain't what you quite remember as a kid, but your perspective changes as a parent for sure. Okay, best childhood memories. Get a little sentimental here.
We did. So I always really enjoyed the Christmas Eve, Christmas morning. We made it a special time with our family where we had. I had twin cousins that lived in St. Louis, and so every year we would alternate if we were going to be up in Waterloo at the time that we lived in Waterloo, or if we were going to drive down and see them in St. Louis. So they would either come to us or we would come to them. So it wasn't just like a one day go to somebody's house. It was like Christmas time was like their family was coming to stay with us for a couple of days and have the whole experience, and they were 6 years older than myself, and so they just added that extra element of fun to Christmas in general for all the Santa Claus activity, you know, like that type of thing. When you have older cousins to kind of lean on for that, it really kind of made that season special.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I had a lot of good memories having, in elementary school, middle school age, having like the sleepovers with your friends.
Sure.
Which is funny now as a parent. I think to myself, I'm like, do we do that?
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, there's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
But the fun fact for me is the one friend that I would probably have the sleepovers with the most. I met her in the 3rd grade, and she's still my best friend to this day, despite moving away from Iowa, coming back to Iowa. She lives in Waterloo, and we've been friends since we were 8.
Wow.
So, you know,
well, that's rare.
so yeah, that's been special. So that's kind of tied into some of my childhood memories, is having that with her from such an early age and still being a good friend with her.
Cool.
And then fishing with my dad. We grew up, my house was in Evansdale, right on Myers Lake.
Okay.
That's right off the Highway 20 there. And so he would take us out in his little flatbed fishing boat on that little lake pond. He called it a lake, but it's, you know, it is a lake, but it's kind of a large pond.
Yeah.
And we just felt so special, like fishing with him out there. And then in the winter, if it iced over enough, somehow my mom approved us going out there with him, but he would walk us out on the lake. And it was so exciting to be out there in the winter when things were frozen, looking for animal tracks and things like that. So some good memories there.
Simple things make the best memories. That's awesome. Okay, embarrassing moments, and you kind of broke this down a little bit. You got childhood, you got adulthood, so
I got a couple of funny stories. So I was a pretty. I didn't really push the limits as a kid. I was a great first child. We'll just put it that way. Like, you know, studious and pretty much followed the rules and pretty responsible. But when I was in elementary school, I got this like little curious itch. My parents were down in the basement hanging out, just watching TV or sitting by the fire, and I was down in the basement bathroom. My mom had a candle lit, and I thought, I wonder how close I could hang this tissue over the top of this lit candle.
Yep.
It lit on fire naturally. And in a bathroom, you have a sink, you have a toilet, and you have a shower, and I threw it in the trash can. And I came out into the living room, and my face was just like blank, and they were like, Jenna, what's wrong? Like, what? Speak, you know? And it was like to try and tell them that the bathroom was on fire. So it ended up just being the trash can burnt, and my mom surprisingly kept that little trash can for quite a while. It had like a black ring around the top, and the liner would cover it. It was kind of a memory there. But fortunately, they got it out fast, but I was like, man, that was not a good, like on... You know, under pressure, what do you do here? There's 3 opportunities for water, and fail. And why I was even doing that in the first place was beyond me, you know. So that stuck out as a why did you do that?
I can relate. That's good.
So there's no rhyme or reason why I would want to do that, as you know. But
that's normal. That's actually
that
normal.
Scares me.
The fire thing. Yep. Kids want to know.
Having 2 sons, I'm like.
You should
I'm
be
not
scared.
ready. I'm not ready. So, and then my other one was in adulthood, also embarrassing, maybe more so. My first week, so I graduated dental school. I'm up at Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha. It's a big STRATCOM base, meaning there's all branches of the military up there. And I have my first week up there. With dental school, after dental school, I got promoted from the 01 ranking to 03. So I went from second lieutenant. They skip first lieutenant, and I go all the way up to captain level as a dental graduate. So my rank shows, for someone who doesn't know the medical field, my rank would indicate that I've had 5 years of military experience.
Okay.
But I'm in my week 1 with this rank, and I see out on the flight line, they have parked the B-2 stealth bomber.
Okay.
And I'm like losing my mind because I commissioned at Whiteman. And that's where Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. That's where they have the B-2 bombers there. So it's kind of a plane that my dad and I loved.
Sure.
It's amazing. It's impressive. And it was right there. And I was like, I can't believe this. This is so cool. And so I pull off in the parking lot, and I try to take a picture with my phone. And I have an enlisted officer come up and tap on my window and say, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to delete that off your phone.
Wow.
And you can't loiter here. Like, it's like security. Like, you can't Instagram that you saw B-2 bombers on your Air Force base today. You know, and I was just going to like text it to my dad.
Sure,
basically. I wasn't going to post something, but I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm sorry. And then he had to give me, I'm in my vehicle. He's standing, and he had to give me a salute afterwards. Like, salute me for being a moron today. I was just the worst. I mean, it's a great story. I told my dad and Nate right away, and everybody loves it. So it's out there. People know that happened to me. But it's incredible. You know, it's just one of those things. It's when you're excited.
Oh, yeah, you didn't think about it.
And, you know, it's one of those weird situations where my uniform would indicate I had a lot more experience than what I actually did, and clearly, and I just imagine the enlisted member being like, good grief, what are we doing here? These officers are ridiculous, you know.
But
They
that
don't
was
know
a
anything.
simple that is a simple funny mistake. Like
Yeah.
there are decisions I've seen in the last however many years, and I don't knock our military. I support them 100%. But I've seen some decisions, some choices, and I'm like, all that stuff on their chest like would indicate you could have done much better than what I saw or what I heard. And I know a civilian, I don't know all the details, but it's just like, oh, that's
Yeah, it's just there was just this really bizarre icing on the cake that they have to salute you afterwards, and you're like, I'm sorry, I wish you didn't have to salute me right now, because this just doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah. Well, you learned, or it came clear afterwards. Oh yeah, I probably shouldn't take pictures of our, you know, most
secret ops, stealth bombers.
our most whatever advanced aircraft we have. Oh, that's good stuff. Okay, let's keep going. Best memory from church. Not every guest has these, because, you know, I tell people you don't got to be a Christian to come on. Like, yeah, my worldview is going to come out at some point. You know, the up arrow in the logo is obviously pointing to something. It ain't just conversation. But I do like it when guests have something like this. Best memories from church.
I grew up pretty strong in my youth group. It was really good memories for me, and it was a safe place to meet friends, and a lot of my friends in my youth group were also friends I went to high school with.
Okay.
And so I got involved pretty early on through like teaching Vacation Bible School.
Oh,
and then
nice.
teaching some Sunday school. When I was in high school, I taught like the preschool, kindergarten age for
Sure.
Sunday school, and did that with my sister. And we went on mission trips and had Sunday night dinners in youth group, and I did girls' Bible studies and bell choir.
Yeah.
So lots of different things there. But at one point it was like I was at church 4 nights a week, it felt like, you know.
Yeah.
But it was just a great space for me to, you know, have friends and have a trusting environment and a great youth group leader and things. So a lot of good memories with that, and some experiences to travel outside of being with my parents. And my parents, we would take family vacations, but we didn't have the means to just go travel whenever you wanted to travel, or if somebody was doing a trip. And even our 8th grade class, you know, was doing a Washington D.C. trip, and we had just moved, and my parents were like, no, we can't afford that right now. Like, if we're going to do something, it needs to be as a family. We can't send just you on this sort of thing. So the mission trips were a great opportunity to get some additional experience outside of family vacations. And then the other one I had told you about was that it's kind of bizarre because everybody handles grief in a different way, but I found that in having that church community, that when I had to grieve the loss of my mother, she died of ALS in 2014, and it was kind of a secret type of disease because she wasn't very outward with it. So when she started getting sick, she kind of hunkered down at home, and it was just her close circle of people that really got to see her. And she had it for about 3.5 years before she passed. And when we had her service, it was at the church where I grew up and had all this youth group experience. And it was kind of like people came out of the woodworks that I just hadn't seen in a really long time, whether it was my past, or it was my dental school classmates, or it was people from Iowa. My friend from Iowa, they came down and they were there. And, you know, we got to celebrate her memory and her favorite music and picture show and things. And it was just, it wouldn't be what a lot of people think of as like a favorite memory, but the closeness and the love and embrace I felt was something that I really valued. And it was a surprise. I didn't expect to feel that way from it, but it was great that I did, you know.
Well, they did it. The people around you did it right then. I mean, it helps knowing, you know, when we're talking about a parent or anybody, it helps knowing where they're at. Like that always helps set, you know, the funeral or whatever they want to call them. They say celebrate, like that just sets it on the right tone right there. But then, like, I can definitely see that when you feel that support, that love, it almost turns into like, yeah, it's I wish she were here, but this was actually a much better day. It was,
especially in her case. I mean, I am thankful that we had all the years with her we did to know it was coming, because having time is a gift.
Oh, yeah.
People are taken without any warning. But it was great to get to have, for her being a little bit suffering in silence on her own for so many years, to get to have everyone embrace the situation. Like, nobody had to ignore it, or nobody had to not come see at that point. Anybody that wanted to come show their support could be there.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a special thing.
Yeah. And that's, sometimes I tell people, like, the Bible talks about, especially something like ALS, or you know, it could just even be old age or whatever. But man, like, the Bible talks about, like, the perfect body that we're gonna have. Like, there's debate whether it's, you know, the age we died or young. You know, there's a lot of people that say, like, it's going to be your body in perfection. You can't even describe it. So there's going to be no ailments. There's going to be no ALS. There's going to be no, just nothing. So it's like, you can kind of rest on that as well. So that's really good. Okay. We're getting down to the end here. How about one thing you love or appreciate about Nate?
Well, there are a lot of things, of course, as there are.
There you go. That a boy, Nate. Good job.
But Nate is, I have appreciated in terms of our marriage, and it has its challenges with how him and I are different, but his ability to follow through is one of the things I value most, and that I strive to be able to do the same someday for him and for other people at the level that he does. So he is definitely man of his word and a follow-through person, and he values his friendships, his relationship with his family. He puts a lot of work into that, and is, you know, it can lend you to feel hurt sometimes, because you put in so much and it's not matched. That can be hard, but I see how hard he works at that, and it's really admirable, and you know, I hope I can live up to that someday in the same way. So
man of integrity there. I like that. I like the old school, my word is my bond kind of thing. You can count on me. I can just pop it into my head. There's guys I can remember giving their NFL Hall of Fame induction speech, and a couple guys right off the bat, they just say, you know, my dad told me, he goes, I don't have much to give you, but I give you my name. Don't it's up to you, you know, to not mess it up. And that's true.
And I had told you earlier in the previous episode how we have really valued, if we want to be home with our boys, that we try to value and not take a lot of like guilt or expectation that we should be doing something else, because we want to value that time. But he is also a person I admire, because I call him kind of a yes man, in a sense that, like, if someone has invited him to do something, he typically wants to, he might say no if he really can't, but at a certain point he definitely wants to say yes, because he's like, you only get so many, if someone's going to include you in something, they're only going to try so many times. And if it's a relationship you value, you really got to work to like say yes and go do some of those things sometimes.
Wow.
Because it sticks, you know. You say yes one time, and then they know, like, they might call you again, and if you can't do it that time, great, but they know that you're a yes person, and you will if you can. You know,
you can count on me if I like most people don't take that approach. Most people think if it's good for me or it works for me, sure. That's kind of refreshing to hear that he's got the take, you know, if I can do this for someone else, if I can come through for someone else in any way, like, I'm going to do that. Most of the time we look here first rather than, you know, someone else. That's good. Good job. Okay. Hidden talents. Do you have any?
Well, one of the talents is that I'm left-handed. It's a blessing and a curse.
Oh, yeah.
Dr. Emo would have called it a curse.
Yeah.
Because when I showed up in the office, we had everything's set up for a right-handed dentist, and then I'm left-handed, and we're sharing the space. And the rooms are all set up enough to where you can't just be like, this is Dr. Schares' room and this is Dr. Emo's room. They're used for different types of procedures.
Okay.
So we just had to share the space. So I always say that if it weren't for like rural Iowa and not having as many people to choose from to take over your practice, because I seriously thought when he found out I was left-handed, he just like shook his head and was like, I don't know.
Oh.
You know, like maybe I don't want you to come here.
Oh, wow.
That's a little exaggeration, but he, you know, it's such a joke that can be kind of challenging. So he was mentoring me, and in surgery had said, well, if you can't see it, just move to the other side. And in dentistry, you're kind of dominant on one side. And I was like, is this really okay? Like if you say it, Dr. Emo's been doing this for 32 years. So I started doing when surgery's on the right side, I go to the right side.
Okay.
And it's kind of an additional skill. Well, come to find out from my assistants later on down the road, Dr. Emo never even did that. He was just like, he's pretty much always stayed on his right side. Like that wasn't something he did. I think he was trying to give me additional tips and help. Like if you need to see it, then just switch,
Sure.
And it worked. And so now I'm this like, in surgery purposes, I'm like this ambidextrous.
Yeah.
Whatever side the tooth is on is the side I go to,
Okay.
So that's a little outside of the norm. But
I gotcha.
nothing
I
too
think
crazy.
we can understand that. Okay, that's cool. All right.
And then lastly, it's not really a talent. It's just a nature of myself and sleeping really hard, but I can sleep through almost anything except my children crying. So if the kids
That
are
wakes
crying,
you up.
I'll wake up. But I've slept through tornadoes, sirens, and different. I mean, a fire alarm would probably get me right there in the house. And we, grew up in Prairie du Chien with those loud trains.
Yep.
And so I can sleep pretty well.
Okay.
So that's another great trait I have. Just give me a pillow and I can be out. I'm out.
Yeah, I can relate to that for sure. That's definitely, that's a good thing. All right, the What Is Up segment you chose a few that may be a little quicker. Let's start right here with the one everyone's waiting to hear about because we teased it on the end of your part 1. Daylight savings time. And so I'm just going to throw it to you.
Okay.
Where do you stand on it? All that stuff.
Twice a year, we have to go through the change. And, every time it comes up, you think, why do we do this when, much of the world does not? There's other countries that don't, and countries that are closer to the equator don't. There's not enough change that way. And so you think like, well, what would we be giving up if we didn't do this?
Okay.
And the bigger question is, if you were going to give it up, are we thinking, in general, I hear most people like that you have longer evenings. Like that's the part I hear most people like.
Yep.
If we gave up daylight savings, typically it would be to keep standard time. So the time we're in right now with evening setting faster and morning coming up sooner, that is the standard time that would be kept. So if we eliminated daylight savings, you'd be eliminating the lighter portion of the day, like that longer evening portion.
Yeah.
And there's different benefits to it. Keeping the standard savings time, I think, is better for us biologically with our circadian rhythms and nighttime and moving into sleep.
Okay.
And how our patterns work in the day. But obviously keeping longer evenings, keeping the savings time where you have more daylight in the evenings can be better economically and, socially and things of that nature too. So there's like two different ways to look at it.
Is.
And it's easy to blanket like, we shouldn't do this anymore. And they're like, well, which way would we go?
Which way do we go?
Which way do we go? And so I had thought about it myself and thought, ultimately long term, I think it would be easier to stay in standard time, and through seasonally your days would be longer.
They're going to get longer,
right?
Yeah.
So instead of it being dark in the summer at 9, it would be 8.
It'd be 8.
And I think that still is reasonable. So I'm like, I'm all for, let's just go to standard time.
Okay.
And eliminate the change in Toddlerville and the havoc it wrecks, and forgetting the clocks and changing all the clocks and getting your body used to it twice a year.
I still remember before everyone just pretty much went off their phone and you'd show up to church. If you didn't set your clock back, you'd either be an hour early or hour late if you didn't do it.
And I still have a double take, like, did my phone really do it? Like, it updated, but you're like, which one's right? And you got it. Like, I leave a clock we leave our clocks until the next morning to verify, like, yes, the phone changed, and now we got to change all the other ones because you're like, what time is it? So
yeah. I bet you most people haven't thought about that. If we got rid of daylight savings time, the end of daylight, like the sun would be completely down and it would be dark at 8 p.m. at the peak of the summer. Most people want it to be the other way, so they actually want to keep daylight savings time, but just implement it full time.
Because the getting dark so fast is
Yep.
the hard part that people don't like.
But yeah, it gradually changes as you move into
Mm-hmm.
summer, the peak of summer. Anyway, I get it, and 8 o'clock is reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go, guys. That's it. Yeah, we got to figure it out. Let's just stop talking about it.
I know,
It
just
keeps
do
coming up all
something.
the time. Make a decision and let's
I
go
know.
with it. But okay. How about social media effects on mental health? Everyone's got an opinion on this. What's your take?
As a new parent, I'm not in the thick of it yet.
Yep.
I'm only what I can control and what I do, and so it feels controlled from my aspect for me because I can be on or off it. I
Yep.
don't have to do certain platforms if I don't want. I can give it up if I don't want. But it does terrify me as a young parent with young children heading into what our future looks like with access to it and making sure that developing minds are staying healthy and fit and not in that bubble. And whether or not someone is struggling and they have access to media that's bringing them down. I mean, there's so many stories of that.
Yeah.
That
Oh yeah.
I appreciate the fact that I think there's a lot of apps and different things out there now to help track and limit it for our young people and teens.
Yeah.
But the accessibility of it is just really challenging. And
Yeah.
you have more probably experience on this front with the ages
Yeah.
of your kids than what I have had. So
Yeah. Yep. You just, there's a couple states, I think Florida, and that they're trying to like pass laws saying it is illegal if you're not 14 to have any social media. Okay, so that's a start because if you're talking about brain development and that's not done till our early 20s, I mean, it's basically saying, maybe we should make this an 18-year thing. I get it. There are some benefits to social media, but primarily it looks like it's doing more harm than good.
right.
It's the overstimulation, not to mention just, the possible threats that are on there, that, the predators and things, but it looks like it's developmentally setting them back. So maybe another 10 years, another 20 years, we see enough research, enough data to say, oh my goodness, we need to stop this.
It's hard to draw what is really positive from it right now. Besides, I mean, it is nice because if you, say in terms of like back when my mom was sick with ALS, there's like lots of support groups and things like that you can find online now that you wouldn't have had access to. So those types of things are nice, but those feels way out measured the harm it can do versus the good.
Yeah. And really, the main benefits I think of is just, you can keep families more connected, that are distant. Well, yeah, but so we can come up with things that aren't, social media is a whole nother animal besides
there's
that.
all the virtual meetings and
there's
video calls and different
my goodness,
things, so.
we can get on the computer, we can do all kinds of other things and not have any of the social media aspect. We're talking about the constant scrolling, the constant stimulation, the constant bombardment. Less is definitely better for sure. You're on the right track with that. Okay, then you surprise me. I know a little bit about different religions and stuff. I like to stay up on that, and I've actually studied each one at different. I had a pastor that made us understand what they all believe about God, about salvation, about Jesus, about all this, and so I'm interested to see why you picked What Is Up with the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives.
So in dental school and in the military, there's a pretty significant population of Mormon colleagues, and they're dentists and they're dental classmates, and so I feel like a lot of my really good friends were of the Mormon faith. Okay. And I love and respect all of them. I mean, they're fantastic, and they have great family values. They do. And so when this came about it was on Hulu or something like that. My husband and I had pulled it up because we originally thought it was like a documentary, like we were like, oh, we want to know more about educational, what this is like. And then it was like, oh, it's a reality show. Like it felt so backwards, which there's many examples of this throughout different organizations or representation of different groups that it doesn't blanket everything, but it was just mind boggling to me that this would be pursued in terms of anything relating to their religion, because it seems secular in nature ultimately, and I felt a little bit bad overall, just that my friends and colleagues I know get this sort of representation of their beliefs, because I know that that's not how it is as a blanket across the board, but I just it just kind of blew my mind that was there, and and made me think about it some just since I've had good friends that have
Sure.
been of that faith. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah, that's kind of. I mean, that goes with anything. Like, not all Baptists are. We do allow dancing now, and like, I didn't grow up in church at all. I didn't walk into a church till I was 20 years old. So I've heard all this funny stories and things about Baptists and all that stuff. And I was like, I don't care what the sign says out in front of your church. I don't care. If you're taking the words of Joseph Smith over the words of Jesus, then we can talk. Like, I want to know to you, who is Jesus, what is heaven, what is sin? Just give me the pillars, the fundamentals, and then we'll go to Scripture, and we'll part ways at that point if you tell me anything that disagrees with the Bible. And so, yeah, everyone still has value and respect. But I imagine those reality shows get going because somebody obviously realized there's a buck to be made, and that's it. But yeah, everyone will get thrown in. Oh, you're a Mormon. They do have great family values. They really do. But then there's other aspects of, I totally get what you're saying. Let's see here. Last one. This is kind of one you said you're more passionate about, as every dentist should. So here it comes, guys. You knew it was coming. The public service announcement from the dentist: chocolate milk and juice in schools. So I'm just going to let you run with that with the remaining time.
Well, first off, I don't claim to know the ins and outs of the school system and the nutritional system as to like specifically how this gets passed and the benefits versus the cons of it. A lot of it comes down to, I imagine, funding and then nutritional values for the kids and things that I've read on it before, because it's coming to light for me because I'm on the cusp of my kids entering the school system.
Yep.
So they're in public daycare, and my 3-year-old comes home talking about how he's in preschool, and when he gets to 4-year-old preschool, he can pick if he gets to have chocolate milk, and that's like burning in my ears as a dentist, because it's just one of those things where I am like, why is this necessary? What are we doing? And ultimately, I have looked a little more into it, and part of it comes down to the nutritional value of milk and them wanting to have something over nothing. And they're going to pick chocolate milk more than they would pick white milk, and they're still getting the benefits of what's in the milk.
Okay.
The hard part is like any habit we have, if we have exposure to it, it's going to be what we want more of the time. So at home, at our own plates, we're told like, well, just give them what you want them to have, and eventually they'll take that. But then somehow in the school system, we're saying, well, this is better than nothing. We want them to have it, and we don't want to have waste. But it's setting them up for, nutritional value alone, it's the same nutrition. It's just twice as much sugar in the flavored milks. And then juice is like a whole nother story, because there isn't really nutritional value. There might be vitamin C or an added supplement, but the benefits over a whole fruit versus juice, and it's hard because from a dental aspect, childhood cavities progress so much quicker. And if it falls into a big socioeconomic role of things, but the kids that are probably having more access to these types of drinks at home are now getting access at school, and are they getting the access to the dental care to take care of their teeth? And so it's this big circular pattern of concern and worry long term. And when I think of children and their success in school, there's a lot to be said about you need those basic fundamentals of food and shelter. But if their food is limiting their ability to be successful, either by not getting enough, or they are getting some, but it's the wrong kind, and then they're getting dental pain, dental infections, that all interferes with their success and being able to, follow instruction at school and participate and focus. And so it dives into one of my bigger passions, that as my kids get older and we exit toddlerville, that I, am passionate about nutrition and the school systems and setting kids up for success, and helping that the nutritional role can play a big success in their success at school. And one of the things I've really enjoyed about Olwine is that they have worked really hard to have food pantries. They have the Olwine Kitchen Cupboard, which has had over 50 years of service towards families. And that is typically through a referral through either a program like school or church or that type of thing. And then in the last 2 years or so, we've had another pantry called the Plentiful Pantry, that's run just by filling out a form, and if they're on SNAP benefits or other things, that they can go in and get access to fresh food
Okay.
and that type of thing. And so they serve that 20,000 pounds a month of the month of November of food.
Oh my goodness.
So they're doing really good things, and the goal behind that is just like kids need those basics to be successful.
Sure.
And a lot of people can be in their circumstance because of their choices, but kids didn't choose that. And kids don't choose to be hungry, and they don't choose to not be able to focus at school because they have dental pain or because they are hungry and or have had poor nutrition and can't focus because they have too much sugar in their diets.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot at play. There's a lot of factors involved with that.
Oh, yeah.
But it is something that I'm passionate about and hope to be able to have an impact with. And our office does contribute towards the pantries in town and, helps in monetary ways that way to try and help support at this point. And hopefully someday down the road can support more of my time as well. So,
yeah. Well, it sounds, if it's a passion of yours, I can see as you get a little more time, that's definitely a good place to put it.
It sounds like a big complaint. Yeah, dentist doesn't want juice or chocolate milk in school, which I don't. It makes me cringe overall.
Yeah.
I do want to respect the fact that from a caloric and nutritional standpoint, I understand that there's some benefit. But just like our other things with social media, it's like, are there more pros than cons?
What outweighs?
What outweighs, what we're trying to do here? And with childhood obesity and long-term systemic diseases going through the roof because of processed foods, it's just heartbreaking to think that it's getting put in the system so young. And that can be anywhere from juice being served to 1-year-olds as a serving of fruit at daycares. It feels backwards. And when I'm on the forefront of treating the side effects of that and the decay and the dental pain and long-term effects of that, or kids that didn't have access to dental care as kids, and then they're working through all of adulthood to try and catch up. It has really long-term effects. And
been there.
And then from the dental standpoint, we don't want to judge a book by its cover, but it is very shown that the presentation of people's mouths plays a big role in their first impression and success.
Yeah.
And there's been stories out there on NPR and things as well about people just trying to get their teeth back so that they can get that job interview, so that they can get the job and have the car, and like it all steps up, and it's not that everything starts with teeth, but it does have a huge role subconsciously in the success, and that starts with early nutrition. So it definitely is something to consider and work on.
It is. You got my mind just rolling here now. Like, if we know it's bad for them. I always thought, like, when Michelle Obama kind of revamped the guidelines or whatever, like, my kids obviously said instantly school food got worse, taste-wise, flavor-wise, all that, because she tried to remove a lot of the, the bad stuff. And then everyone's saying, with this new health administration coming in, that we're maybe going to remove some of these things that just other countries don't, like, have outlawed in their food. And so we're going to see some effects of that. But, like, I'm surprised that the milk and the juice didn't go away in the Obama days then. Why did that stay in if all that? That's interesting. But you're kind of highlighting, a lot of people think, and maybe there's some evidence to it or not, but we're not going conspiracy road here. But some people say, there's so much that can be done in the medical world, but they want you to stay sick so that it's kind of a revolving door of money flow and all that. You're a dental practice owner, and you're saying, I want the bad stuff out. I want to see better mouths come into my office. I don't want to see, you know what I mean? You're kind of pushing that, like, you're saying, well, that's not in the dental world then, because you want improvement. You don't want a constant revolving door of kids with bad teeth. So you just always you're going to have patients either way, but.
Right. And I think as a medical provider, and I've seen this I have a lot of friends that are physicians and things as well. And the general core value is, like, you want people to be well and you want to have a healthy life. So I think a lot of it does get run from a corporate standpoint, from an insurance standpoint of, they don't want to pay on the procedures, but they want you to be sick and need the insurance.
Yeah.
From a individual provider standpoint, it's rare to find a provider that doesn't want you to be your healthiest self.
Yeah.
And teeth don't have any guarantee. You touch a tooth and it could still be sensitive afterwards. Something could still happen when you walk out the door. So my favorite mouth is the one that doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't fill up your schedule, but human nature, people are going to eat what they want to eat and do what they want to do, and there's plenty of work to be done regardless. So it's one of those things where the the least I can have to touch on your mouth, the happier I am, because
better.
I want you to be healthy and happy without my intervention, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I like how you bring up food banks too. Like that's such a good, like, I don't know how the ones you mentioned, how they're run, but the one at our church, like, yeah, our church kicks in a little. We don't have tons of money. We don't have tons of members. The church kicks in a little bit of money, and that basically comes from everyone tithing and giving offerings. A couple ladies run it. We got 6 or 7 food boxes that go out every month. And it's just straight out of the old school, help people who need help. You're not trying to enable them, but people who need a hand up, you know, you help them out. And that's kind of the church's role when you read the Bible. If you can work, you work. If you can work and you don't work, well, the Bible says you don't eat. But there's a way society's kind of supposed to function, and food banks, like church-driven food banks or food pantries, is kind of the way to. Food banks more like the government-run way of saying food pantry by your local church, help meet the needs of the people in the community that need it. That's the way to do it. I like it.
Old does a annual Christmas fundraiser too. They have a Grinch contest, so they nominate.
Okay.
As part of our old time Christmas celebration, they nominate 4 or 5 potential Grinch candidates, people in the community that then run around all month dressed as the Grinch and doing silly things, but they're trying to raise money and donations towards that, towards the Owine food pantry.
To fund that?
Yeah, to fund that. So it's their biggest, I think their biggest fundraiser of the year, but they
Okay.
get the whole community involved with like making donations to that. And then the Grinch is crowned by whoever, you know, raised the most
Raise
in
the
that
most
month.
money.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's really good.
It's fun.
No, at our church, we, you know, pass the plate. If there ain't enough in it, we pass the plate again. No, we don't do that. We don't even pass the plate anymore. You just put your money in the basket when you walk in. But okay. Well, anything else you want to share with the audience? That's going to about wrap it up.
Yeah, well, thank you
did
for
good.
listening. I appreciate getting to share my story and exit Toddlerville for a little bit to relive some of the childhood and adult growing memories and growing pains.
No,
and
you did great. You did great. Hopefully Nate's hanging in there and the house is still standing. Jenna, I got to thank you for coming on. This was a lot of fun. Some really good discussion. I'm sure you encouraged our audience with everything in your episode that you shared from part 1 to part 2, and hopefully got people thinking a little bit about, you know, like what is up with chocolate milk and juice in schools? Can we do better? You know, maybe we can. And that's kind of one of my goals, is to get people, you know, we have fun here, but we also need to think critically about certain things, and that's one of them. And so that was kind of fun. To my audience, have you caught yourself looking around and asking, like, what is up with that? If school lunches went downhill, like all the kids admit to, they just say they taste terrible nowadays, why didn't chocolate milk and juice go with it? Why not a healthier option? I don't know. Or just the straight milk? I don't know. You know, why did that happen? Why are things the way they are? Well, guys, I'll tell you, the answers to the most important answers we need in life cannot be found down here. We gotta look up. If we look to God and His Word, He will truly show us what is up. I still think the Bible gives the best answers and explanations for why the world is the way it is, and why we are the way we are and do the things we do. Sometimes we even do the things we don't want to do. Guess what? That's in the Bible. It tells us why we do that, why we struggle with ourselves sometimes. If you want to know more, you can join me any Sunday at FBC in Dunkerton, or online on our Facebook page if you're not in the area, or you can just email me, whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. I'll personally share the gospel with you. We talked a little bit about the Mormons a little bit. If you want to know what the gospel is, what the crucial part of Christianity is, I will share that with you so that you can know for sure that God is real, that He loves you, and He wants a relationship with you. Yes, even you, no matter who you are, what you've done, what you're doing, where you've been, He wants a relationship with you. That's why we were created. But we got to choose Him. Okay? That's where the real hope, joy, and peace, the best things in life, that's where it all comes from. If you haven't figured it out by now, there's absolutely nothing else on this earth that will satisfy us completely and permanently. There's nothing else that we can put our hope in. There's no person, no government, no politician, no preacher, no future president. We got to look up. So if you're listening or watching on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, be sure to follow and leave a 5-star review. Maybe even leave a comment. I'd love to have a comment to read. And let your opinion be heard by answering our poll question. Or if you're watching in high definition on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, make sure and subscribe, like, and then leave a comment. Then share it with everyone you know. If you guys like this episode, please share it. I welcome feedback, questions, comments, even criticism. I'm trying, maybe that's my New Year's resolution, take criticism better. Constructive criticism, good. The other kind, maybe keep that to yourself. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope Jenna's episode really encouraged you. Lord willing, I'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.